Hey, to whoever may need this nugget of encouragement, things will be alright, so quit your worrying. I get it, the odds seem stacked back against the wall, but even consider it such, know you'll stand tall. Sat and watch from the sidelines, one too many times. Wicked games we play make me wanna lose my mind. Found solitude, knowing it'll be over soon. Ever need a boost, count on me for the 1-2. Trouble don't last when the tough get going. Baby, all we do is win, so show me my opponent. Adversity.
Welcome back to the Wage Breakers podcast. On today's episode, we will be covering Atomic Habits, Chapter 3.
Chapter 3, baby.
Woo!
We've made it.
We're doing
To
great.
Chapter 3.
This will be the 21st episode.
Yes.
Because today 20 came out. So yeah, the next one's 21. We can count.
We can
So-
count.
Since we can count, Alex, let's jump into Chapter 3.
All right, okay. So, Chapter 3. I'm super stoked because it was a great chapter.
It was. I enjoyed
And-
it.
So, this chapter really talked about why our brain builds habits in the first place and what is the point of them and just kind of how that all happens. And then after that, we're going to be getting into the actual building of them or breaking of bad habits, which is, where the real application is. So this one really sets it up and it starts off with a story, and it is about Thorndike's cats, Edward Thorndike, and he was a scientist. We're just going to say somebody who does studies, and he was in 1898. He did a study with cats, and he put them in a enclosed space, like a maze, a box maze. And if they went and they stood on a certain platform or hit a button or pulled on a lever, a certain trap door would open and they could run out and go get food. So this is the study that he did with these cats, and he had a ton of cats, did it 24 times with each cat, and he tracked the amount of time that it took each cat to get out. And as you can imagine, when the cat was put in there initially, it was, scratching at the edges, trying to get out, not knowing, and then eventually it would happen upon the lever or the platform, right? And it would get out.
Right.
And it wouldn't actually realize that the platform or the lever did anything for a couple times. He'd keep putting it in there, and it began to learn that if I go and I hit this lever or stand on this platform, it'll open up. So the times kept getting faster and faster and faster. So if you can imagine, in the 24 tests, the first 3 tests took 1.5 minutes for the cat to get out. The final 3 tests had an average of 6 seconds to get out. So you can see that there was a huge difference in time just because, in just 24 attempts, that the cat learned, if I stand on this, I get said reward, pretty much. And this was his conclusion, and that is behaviors followed by satisfying consequences tend to be repeated, and those that produce unpleasant consequences are less likely to be repeated.
Right. And let's jump into why our brain is building habits. And I kind of want to go to the book for this one.
Okay.
I have a few different things highlighted within my book that I kind of just want to touch on before we get into the nice little nitty-gritty of Chapter 3. James Clear says a few different times, a habit is a behavior that has been repeated enough times to become automatic, like Thorndike's cats. Then he says, habits are mental shortcuts learned from experience. The cats created mental shortcuts from their experience trying to get out of the box. Another one, habits reduce cognitive load and free up mental capacity so you can allocate your attention to other tasks. All right, so let's break that down a little bit here, Alex. That last one kind of catches my attention a little bit more.
Yeah.
It says habits reduce cognitive load and free up a mental capacity so you can allocate your attention to other tasks. Have you seen this in your life before, Alex?
Oh, yeah. So, I think of it whenever when I'm stressed or when I am just doing something that's unpleasant. You tend to revert back to habits. So, like, when you're stressed, you're just like, oh, I just want to watch TV. Boom, like TV. Or you go and so that feeling of like stress, like your mind is needed a lot for that.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be, aware. It needs to be analyzing. It needs to, and so because of that, I have this like urge to like watch TV. Like I'm like, okay, I just need to, and that's just something that happens every single time that I'm like really stressed. I'm like, okay, I just need a break and I watch TV or like go for a run or whatever. So I do see that where your brain kind of reduces cognitive load. It needs to focus on other things that are more serious.
Right.
And so there are certain things that you've trained your brain to do every single time that have now become automatic.
Right. And an example they give from the book is walking into a room and flipping on the light switch. Like when we were little kids, our parents taught us that when we flip that switch, the lights turns on. So every time we walk in a room, boom, automatic habit. We just do it. Because our brain's trying to remember, oh, why are we going into this room? What are we doing? We need to look out for like danger. We need to look out for these other things. Because that's what our mind is more occupied upon, is those bigger things.
Yeah.
Those bigger ideas, those bigger thoughts or those emotions that you're going through. So flipping on the light switch, turning off the light switch, closing the door are just all little things that your brain already has down. And so this chapter really helps us to understand the building process of a habit. So we now know what a habit is. A habit is something that your brain has learned to do through good consequences or bad consequences throughout our actions.
Yep.
Right? So
Repetition.
So let's jump into the 4 steps that James gives us of how habits are built.
Okay. There are 4 steps that he has built. And if you guys have the book, it has a diagram in it. And I encourage all of you guys to go and check out this diagram. We'll put it in the description of the podcast as well, so you can go and take a look at it. But this it basically goes in a wave of 4, not a wave, sorry, just a line. A linear line of 4 things, 4 steps. And that is cue, craving, response, reward. So I'm going to start with cue. Morgan, you can take craving, and we'll just,
Perfect.
back and forth. So the cue essentially predicts a future reward. That is it, right? Predicts a future reward. I like using the example of coming home and smelling cookies, like your wife's making cookies. And the initial cue is like, smell cookies, right? I love cookies. And what is the future reward that you're predicting in that moment?
You're going to eat a cookie.
Yeah, you smell the cookies and you're like, I'm going to eat the cookies. Right? And that is the future reward that this cue has, which is the smell, has predicted.
Right. So now that we have that cue, we have that smell, that nice aroma in the home. Next thing we're going to crave that cookie.
Yeah. I mean, everyone craves a cookie.
Everyone craves a cookie.
It could be something that like smells, I don't know, like some people like the smell of coffee and some people don't.
Right.
I personally don't. I hate the smell of coffee.
I personally do. I enjoy the smell of coffee.
And
Walking into a coffee shop, just it smells great.
And so there's the people that smell that and they get the craving for it, and there's some people that smell it and don't get the craving. So it's not just like every time that you smell or whatever, like it's automatic. That's why they are separate.
Right.
Because the cue doesn't always mean that there's going to be a craving.
Right. And so with that craving, our mind is going to be thinking about how can we get there? What do we need to do in order to get that reward? So that's when it kicks into like the response, the action part. So we have that cue, our thought process of all of our senses kicking in and be like, cookie smells great. We have the craving of our mind goes, oh, let's go eat the cookie.
Yeah, like what do I do to satisfy myself?
To satisfy that craving? And then all of a sudden the brain goes, here, do this. Do this response because we've done this 20 times, 30 times.
We love cookies.
We know what happens when we smell cookies.
My tummy feels good when I eat them.
Right. So goes into the response.
Exactly. And the response is probably the most simple, right? We all know the response, which is the actual action of eating the cookies or going and eating them. Or I mean, if we want to look at it the other way, not eating it, right?
Mhm.
When you walk into a coffee shop, you smell it, you're like, I love the smell of coffee. I go get a coffee, or I don't go get a coffee, right? There are a myriad of different ways that you could take this, but that is what it is. And essentially it is the habit itself, the action that takes from the cue, the craving, and then trying to get the reward. That is the response.
Right. So those right there are the 4 steps. Oh my goodness, did I talk about reward?
No, you haven't yet.
No, I haven't. I'm so sorry. So the reward. So after that response, that reward, if we did eat the cookie, our tummy is going to be nice and warm. It's going to feel great. Our taste buds are going to be like, that was perfect.
It's the goal. It's the end goal.
Great. Or we're going to be like, yeah, I'm proud of myself. I didn't eat that cookie.
Yeah.
Even though it looks good. My
So-
mind wants it.
It's true.
You just decided not to get it. So either way you look at it, you know, it works. You can either crave the cookie and eat it. You can crave the cookie and not eat it. It's up to you.
Yeah.
And so this is how good habits and bad habits are created. But also, in a way, it's of how we can also break those bad habits.
Yep.
Alex, where in that little step, where do you think you would start changing that bad habit?
So I think if we give me an example of a bad habit. Ready, go.
Binging Instagram.
Binging Instagram. Okay, that's one that we all have. Okay, so you're sitting there, you're bored. What do? I have the craving to get on Instagram and right. I go and I swipe. The response is me doing that. The reward is a couple good memes and a lot of wasted time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you go, I want to change that habit because I value the time over whatever I got, those couple memes, whatever.
Right.
So basically, where I think a lot of people they try the response. They just try to cut out their response immediately and go, I just need to change what I'm doing, like I just have to resist. I have to do this, that, and the other. When in reality, that's really hard to do because you're just fighting willpower. Like it's something that your brain is now wired to do. I think we've talked about this before, how your brain like actually gets wired to do things.
Right.
Like, every day you walk in and you turn on that light switch without even thinking about it, right? And you're gonna do that forever. It's gonna take forever for you to not look for a light switch whenever you walk into a dark room.
Right.
So you were telling me about soldering and when you actually have to change an entire like motherboard of wires and stuff. Tell me a little bit more about that and how that process is.
Okay. So in junior high, I was in this class. It was 9th grade. It was like this civil engineering class because I wanted to be a civil engineer. Before I left on my mission, went on my mission, came home, and I was like, finance is where I'm going.
Yep.
So in this class, we had to create, I'll kind of just try to describe it. We all see those fans with like the LED lights on them, and it spells out like a word or a picture, right?
A hologram.
A hologram.
of a
It's
fan.
spinning so fast that it's creating said picture. Well, we had to create it to write our name. Like it had to display our name on it.
Wow.
I don't have it. I don't know what happened to it.
Did you do it? Did you complete
I
it?
completed it. It said my name.
I never saw it.
I'm sorry. But anywho, I made a few mistakes on there. I soldered some of the wrong, like little metal prongs to each other when they should have been going somewhere else. So what you do is there's like a little sucker. If you have kids, it's like a booger sucker. You like put in their nose and it like sucks out like the boogers. But it's for soldering. So you heat the solder back up and you squeeze the little pump, like the little sucker, put it on the solder, and you let go and it sucks up the solder. So that you can fix your mistake. So that you can, move those 2 wires to where they should actually be. Or if they're not supposed to be soldered, you can take the solder off of it.
Yeah.
But you also have to be careful not to heat the motherboard up too much to where it won't work again. So there's a fine line you have to walk.
So I feel like that's the right way you have to do it. How tedious would that be if you had to change like thousands of those?
It would be tough. It would take you a long time.
It would take you a long
Because
time.
if you set it on like the motherboard, like the actual soldering iron, it's going to start melting it because most of the motherboards are plastic.
Yeah.
They have to be plastic in order to run metal wires through it.
Yeah.
Because if it's metal on metal,
It's not going to work.
it's not going to work. It's going to go everywhere. So it has to be plastic. So really, if you're trying to change thousands, it's going to take you a really long time. And it's going to be tedious. It's going to take you maybe a couple days to really focus on each one.
Yeah. So I feel like that's a good example, but that's a good example of the right way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if you had got like a screwdriver and you were trying to like pry it off, you know, like
You're going to break it.
first of all, you're probably going to break it. Second of all, it would just not work very well, you know?
Right.
And I think whenever we just go off of a response, we're trying to go at it with the screwdriver.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, why don't you heat it up? Why don't you get it ready and then suck it off, right?
Right.
And so I think that's the correct way to start changing a habit.
Mm-hmm.
Is start with the cue and the craving, right? Like the craving of, oh, I smell cookies, right? Instead of, or I guess into a coffee shop and you just have you just buy coffee all the time. Like the craving or the cue, like you can just like, I just don't go to coffee shops very often, right? That would help.
Right.
You just remove that out of there. Or the craving, you can make the craving seem unattractive, right? I'm not entirely sure how you do that with a smell that you really like, but
Yeah. I guess try and associate a bad memory with it.
I don't know. I mean, it's whatever works for you.
If you had a bad coffee shop date, every time you
You're
walk into a
like,
coffee shop, try and think about that date to where you just turn around and leave.
And so, I mean, whatever works for you, but you want to make sure that so whenever you get to the response, it's way easier because by the time you get to the response, by the time you have to act, your brain is already acting in autopilot.
Right.
And you can even open your eyes and actually be thinking and just be on autopilot the whole time. And I'm sure we've all kind of experienced that where we're just like, oh, I should go to the gym, I should go to the gym, I should go to the gym, and then you're just like, I'm going back to bed, you know?
Right.
Like, and you even like, I want to, like I need to. And then because you've programmed yourself to hit snooze and go back to bed, right? Like that is what your brain on autopilot does, right? And so you need to start from the beginning with the cue and the craving before you get to the response.
I like that. Like an example I had today. Alex came and picked me up, and I said, yo, bro, let's go get Swig.
Yeah.
When we pulled in the Swig drive-thru, my brain was like, ooh, what soda are you going to get today? You're going to get some caffeine? It was like, what, 6:30 at night?
Yeah.
Almost 7 when you picked me up? Too late for caffeine at that point. It's not a weekend.
It's not a weekend.
It's not a weekend. It's a weekday still. Tomorrow's Friday. I still have to wake up and go to work. But it took kind of a lot of willpower to get what I got. And I just got lemonade with like some cream and like some flavor shots in there. But I was like really craving like a Coke and like a lime, some coconut in there.
Just from driving into Swig.
Yeah.
You got that.
It's because that's what I usually get. But it's like I had to really focus on, okay, I'm here. Let's not get this and let's get this other thing. Is it as healthy? Is it healthier?
It'll benefit you more in this moment.
Yeah,
all right?
right. It'll help me. I'll be able to go to sleep tonight. But
For sure.
I had to like really focus on not letting that craving of having a Coke get to me. I had to think about it and be like, okay, no. It's not the time for this. So let's get this instead. Or let's do this other action instead.
Yeah. So I want to kind of go a little bit away from the book to just kind of talk about habits in general and the development of habits because habits are hard. They're really hard.
Habits sometimes really suck to do.
And I think a lot of the time is because we expect ourselves to just do them.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about this in the other episodes, I believe. But like you have to realize that you're literally sucking off each piece of solder with every decision you make. And you have to do it hundreds or thousands of times, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to be perfect at it.
Right. You're going to make some mistakes along the way.
But I think the biggest thing that you can do is be self-aware. I think if you notice, you're like, oh, this is what's going on. Okay, I now notice that I'm craving soda. I'm now craving to get on Instagram. Huh. Okay, now you can decide whether or not, like, okay, am I forming a habit that I want, or am I forming a habit that I don't want? Where can I change? And if you are self-aware, I believe that you can stop a lot of bad habits from forming. I don't think you
I
can be
agree.
perfect all the time,
Right.
because we're on social media, but just last night I was thinking, like, you're becoming reliant on social media. Every time you get bored, you're pulling out your phone. And instead of, you've said this before, like, you just delete it. And I'm guilty of this as well. Just get rid of it,
Right.
And I think that's good to some degree, but we still need to use social media all the time. So instead of that, you go, okay, I need to start to be more self-aware of this habit that's forming, put my energy into other things, find the cue, find the craving, and then change my response for a different reward, right? And so basically, that is something that everyone, I think, needs to start doing, which is be self-aware so you notice bad habits before they happen. And we haven't gotten to the part where it really talks about breaking bad habits, but it does give this framework, or building good habits, but it does give the framework of the cue, craving, response, and reward. So I don't want us to act like we know everything right now, because we're not that far, but based on our experiences, is that just even thinking about habits and how they're being developed in your brain helps. And what the effect that they have on you. Because before, you just think like, oh, that's just something I do. That's just something that I like doing. Like, I like making my bed every morning, or I like working out. It's like, I don't know if that's the case. Like, generally, people don't like making their bed, or they don't like cleaning up. But it's something that they've conditioned themselves to do. Or even brushing your teeth. Like, do you like brushing your teeth?
I like the feeling of how clean my teeth are.
Yeah.
I like the feeling of how clean my
That's
teeth
the reward. You don't like the brushing of your teeth
No.
necessarily. And if your mouth could be clean all the time, would you brush your teeth?
No.
Exactly. And
we should create something to where it's a cavity blocker to where we never have to brush our teeth ever again, and they always feel clean.
You know what? That would be really nice. I don't know if that would ever work. I don't know. That's just called dentures, bro.
You still have to clean those.
You just take them out and then
Bacteria.
I don't even know, dude.
You still have to clean those.
I'm not an oral surgeon, but
I should talk to my sisters and see if we can invent something together.
yeah, that would take a lot.
They would. But anywho, like you're saying, we have to be, I think, me personally, ready? Self-awareness is key.
Yeah.
You have to be self-aware of what's going on in your mind, self-aware of your surroundings, because even our surroundings can give our brain cues of what to do. Like at work, for me personally, when I'm at a gas meter, my brain automatically thinks, what's wrong with it? What needs to be fixed on it? I don't have to think about that anymore. I can just look, see. And then I pull out my phone, plug all the information in, leave. Because that is a cue that my brain has, created. So being self-aware is key. Being self-aware that you're using social media too much. Being self-aware that you're letting it control your life. Because we've been trying to build our social media platforms more.
Yeah.
I've been noticing in the last 1 or 2 days that it's like every empty second I have, I'm like, ooh, check. How many, did we get any followers? Yeah. How many more views did we get? What's our view, what's the watch time?
What's funny is that we both do it, and so we're both on either end, so we don't really see very much just because he checks it, and then it's like, oh, you got 3 new views, and I'm all like, only 3? But he saw when there was 27, or what? I don't even know. But it's...
Because, what was it, yesterday? I texted him, and I was like, hey, yo, bro, our one reel just got 1,000 views. And you may have noticed that happening. I don't know if you did, but you're like, yeah, nice, bro. Yeah. We're killing her, something like that. But it's just that's something I want to work on, is where, it's okay to check it a few times a day.
Yeah.
It's okay to see progress. But my brain's relying on those little little things of progression.
Yeah.
And so it's bringing me back in. It's bringing me into the algorithm. And I don't want to be a part of the algorithm. I just want to be on the outside.
Yeah.
Watching and then leaving.
Yeah. What you want to do is you want to own yourself.
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing. Is like I want to be in charge of what I do. I don't want bad habits to control me. And I guess good habits are good because it allows you to be on autopilot and do good things without having to put in a ton of effort and whatever, which is good. I think he talks about it in that chapter, which is some people think that, habits are bad because you don't think, you're not free. It's like, well, it's not entirely true just because you do get to go and work out every day, or you make your bed every day, or you have good habits, and those things happen with ease.
Right.
But your bad habits, they're so much harder to break because you've conditioned yourself, and now you have to literally dig yourself out of a hole.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's pretty difficult to do. But I'm super excited to see what happens in the next couple chapters.
Same. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
There will be, hopefully, we upload a chapter each week. If we don't, it's because we had some really amazing people on our podcast that we just had to get those out there for y'all to watch. So stay tuned. Chapter 4 will be coming very, very soon. We have a really cool podcast being dropped next Thursday.
Yep.
Eric McCormick,
Yep.
correct? Go watch that. If you don't know who he is a trainer that is a personal trainer that's helped Cameron Haynes become who he is.
Yeah. So Cameron Haynes,
We're coming for you.
Yeah, best bow hunter in the world. Good friends with Joe Rogan. Really good friends with other people up there in that realm. And Eric McCormick has been his personal trainer and coach for 12 years.
Right.
So, and this guy is shredded. So,
shredded.
We're super excited to have that one released. There won't be a video for that one, sadly, because the audio and his video did not sync up. What are you going to do? So,
nothing we can really do about it unless one of these days that he is back here in Utah,
we could re-record.
We could re-record with him in person, and maybe we could try and get him to bring a special guest.
That'd be sweet.
AKA Cameron Haynes. If you're watching this, you probably aren't. Oh,
I don't even know if my mom is watching this, but it's okay. Thank you guys, and I think that's everything we have today.
Yeah. That's the pod.
Sweet.
Hey, to whoever may need this nugget of encouragement, things will be alright, so quit your worrying. I get it, the odds seem stacked back against the wall, but even consider it such, know you'll stand tall. Sat and watch from the sidelines, one too many times. Wicked games we play make me wanna lose my mind. Found solitude, knowing it'll be over soon. Ever need a boost, count on me for the 1-2. Trouble don't last when the tough get going. Baby, all we do is win, so show me my opponent. Adversity.